Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome to On Renewables, the podcast brought to you by the UAE Mission to IRENA, that's the International Renewable Energy Agency. My name is Nawal Al-Hosany and I am your host for today. I am the UAE Permanent Representative to IRENA. And this is the podcast series that speaks to the most influential thought leaders in the fields of renewable energy, climate change, sustainability, and the environment about the issues shaping the world we live in. Thank you for joining us. My guest this episode is Her Excellency Teresa Ribera, on the sidelines of the 13th IRENA Assembly. She is, among many other things, the third Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Ecological Transition in Spain. Your Excellency, such an amazing pleasure to have you with us as a minister and as a friend. Welcome to Abu Dhabi.
Thank you so much. I'm also very happy to be here as a minister, but as you said, also as a friend. I think that we have been working together and fighting together for very good causes all along these years, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. It's so nice to have you back here in Abu Dhabi for the IRENA Assembly in person after all this time. And I just wanted to, from your trip, how has it been so far arriving into Abu Dhabi?
I think it has been fantastic. First, because it had been a very long time since we did not have the opportunity to have these personal meetings, this capacity to speak face to face and to discuss how we can improve the deployment of renewable energy, but also how it relates to many other very relevant human aspects of prosperity and how this impacts in the day-to-day life of so many people. So it has been a great opportunity to have this chance to meet and to discuss again with so many engaged people and institutions being represented here in IRENA.
So you touched on what we discussed here, on your reflection on the meetings of the Assembly, but also you had many other bilateral meetings. So how useful have you found this platform for you?
It is a very good platform because, in fact, at the end, energy is so systemic for the welfare of the families, for the capacity to develop nations and economies. So the people being engaged on what are the challenges in this very deep transformation of the energy system worldwide, which is not something to be done from one day to the next one. It is very systemic. You need to put in place so many different things to have the skills, to have the infrastructure, the grids, the learning process, the new technologies. And in these bilaterals, we have had a great chance to discuss about these challenges, but also about how things have changed so much in such a short period of time, and how all of this relates to the other big event that will be taking place in this country by the end of 2023, which is the Climate COP. And I think that the Emirates is in a very singular position, unique position, because it is a country that was rich in oil and gas terms, but that had an early vision on how important it was to divest and to transform the energy system and to make a big bet for the future and to try to identify how the country could be a good partner with many other countries in the world to make this transformation available and possible. So I think that having the chance to combine the two perspectives, energy, old energy, new energy, climate and energy, and the social impact in so many different countries has been a very good thing to happen.
So you mentioned COP. How do you see the collaboration between Spain and the UAE as we come closer to COP? For Spain, how would you define a successful COP28?
I think that we need to provide the sound basis to transform our development and prosperity models. We in Spain will be the presidency of the European Union in the second half of the year, so we will be in charge to facilitate the discussions of the climate ministers at the European level. And for us it is very important that this COP becomes a success. Then what does a success mean? Christiana Figueres said a long time ago that this is like building a house. We need different bricks being fixed together. So to build the wall and to introduce the different rooms, the roof, and so on and so on. And we need to have this done in a balanced form, but in a much more speedy manner. This year we will be trying to find out to what extent we have been successful in reaching the goals that we adopted in the Paris Agreement back in 2015. And it is clear that even if we have made some good steps forwards, we are not still there. We need to accelerate the transformation of our model. And this means thinking about how to ensure that all the financial flows are invested in fields that are consistent with climate action, how we can facilitate the transition period, how we should be paying attention to the impacts on people and on territories, and to build resilience and capacity to adapt to the most perverse of the climate impacts, effects, and at the same time how we can have a very quick response whenever the big losses, the big damages in the most vulnerable countries take place. At the same time, I think that this vision on transformation that the Emirates has been pushing forward for such a long time is very important, because we know that the big aim is to phase out fossil fuels, and we need to provide some vision on how to do that. This means having a perspective in temporal terms, but it also means having the grounds, the pillars, the conditions to make this transformation, and this can be reflected somehow in the COP results. This is a place where we have a chance to provide good governance on the multilateral action, knowing that global challenges need to have a common response, a global and shared response, but an engaged response and a deep dialogue. But at the same time, we need to be aware that action does not take place in the COPs. Action, real action, take place in the capitals of the different countries, take place in the boards of the different companies. So how we can transform this theoretical understanding into something that is meaningful and effective, and that's the type of challenges that you will have to deal with.
We will have to deal with.
That's true. It's a shared responsibility coming from all of us.
From all of us, international community. Actually, it's amazing how you spoke about different blocks builds something, and we need to build it together to get to a shared results that we are all very proud of. So speaking about those blocks, you have, among many other things, those two big hats. You are the third deputy prime minister, and you are a minister of ecological transition. And I'm sure both of them are extremely demanding. So how you balance between them? Do they complement each other? Do you have, how does that help you become the person you are now? And I know you have been a huge advocate for climate change since I met you, since forever.
Well, I have concrete responsibilities in some of the policies that are very important for climate, but also for people. So I'm responsible for water, for biodiversity, for climate policies, for energy. And at the same time, I have a chance to work with my colleagues dealing with related files. And as Deputy Prime Minister, I have the commitment to provide an overview on how the different issues relate together. So when talking about infrastructures and transportation, when talking about the update of the industrial production, and when talking about the general understanding on how we can provide a much more consistent approach between agriculture and fisheries and the protection of biodiversity or the protection of the ocean. So I think that it is an interesting way to count on this platform to see the different interlinkages. But I cannot forget that at the end, the concrete policies that are directly dependent on my team are very, very important and are quite challenging in terms of the speed of the transformation. How you can talk about water in a country that feels that there is a lower and lower amount of water, fresh water, in the natural cycle of water. We need to provide additional water supply, but we need to be very efficient in the use of water. We need to combine the use of water with the protection of the water biodiversity. Same for energy, how we can promote the transformation of the power sector, how we can provide other solutions for mobility, how we can facilitate the investment in innovative approaches to provide, to supply energy solutions for people, how we can deal with something which is always very, very sad and complicated, which is to avoid energy poverty in the families, because of course, if there is a rise in energy prices, there could be people that could be having a bad situation to face these things. So how we can combine all these aspects is on one side is a privilege to have the opportunity to help. On another side, of course, it's a challenge that sometimes creates tensions and difficulties to ensure that everybody can provide part of the solution and can engage being part of the solution and finding a positive consensus to build a better and more resilient solution or response to the challenge.
But the Spanish government has laid out very, very ambitious plans to transform the energy system. If I quote the numbers I have here, so Spain's 2050 objectives for national climate neutrality calls for renewables to provide 100% of electricity, 97% of the total energy mix. So tell us, how are you approaching those very, very, very ambitious targets? And, which is, I'm sure, much more important for our audience, what are the challenges associated with that and how you are addressing them?
I think that it was very important to share with the whole society a vision.
Okay.
Why and how and what were the main lines to be taken into consideration. Because sometimes in a simplistic approach we tend to think that we change the technology by another one and everything is done. And we think that technology is going to provide solutions and that we just need to wait. And this is never true. Yeah. We require many things happening at the same time to get the system functioning around technologies and responses that do not match and that do not function in the same manner than the previous ones. And we need the social support for this transformation, because otherwise we could be having contestation, doubts or difficulties. So we knew that it was very important to count on the right skills, so education and formation is absolutely key.
True.
We knew that we had to work with the infrastructure, the grids being ready to work in a different manner. We knew that we needed to count on the companies that were ready to invest and to develop these new solutions. We needed that it should be recognized and should count on a financial system that could be providing the finance to invest in this context. And we knew that the regulation framework should work to facilitate the transformation to happen. In the middle of this big transformation, there were two additional lines that came up. One of them was not a surprise, the other one was a little bit of a surprise. The first one was that, of course, if we are going to phase out coal, and coal was relevant in many regions with thermal plants that constituted the main economic source of, and the main source of work, of jobs in those concrete areas, we needed to facilitate alternative futures for those people and for those regions.
Okay.
How we can ensure that what we call in this climate world just transition could take place. That was challenging, and it was quite important and quite rewarding from a personal perspective, but you need to go down to the ground and to listen and to be with the people, so that the alternatives were real. And suddenly, in the middle of this transformation, with all these innovations being on track or being designed, what about the new renewable energy solutions, the offshore wind, what about the storage, so that we can facilitate a response that could ensure the security of supply if there is no sun, if there is no wind, and so on and so on. We suddenly went through this horrible crisis due to the invasion of Ukraine and its related impacts in terms of energy prices, tensions, and supply of energy in many parts of Europe. Not in Spain. In Spain, we had a different type of portfolio, and we were not suffering this direct impact. But of course, none of us live in a bubble. We all depend very much on the impacts in our neighbors. So that was also a manner to allow people to understand that it was important to invest faster than what we thought. In the middle of this energy crisis, we experienced a terribly hot summer and a terribly dry year. So we could not produce, we were not able to produce electricity from the water, hydroelectricity. Same for our neighbors, Portugal. So we had to supply a big share of their electricity consumption from Spain. So all these tensions show to what extent you need to build a resilient energy system. Yeah. And I think that this has been a very intense experience, but has also provided other reasons than just the climate or the environmental reasons why we need to update and to think in a much more systemic manner on the different pieces of this puzzle. For the time to come, how we can ensure that there are local benefits for the communities that host a wind plant, or for the communities that need to adapt their way of life to the absence of these traditional thermal plants that will not be existing anymore.
So the people were at the heart of it, and definitely they were one of your main stakeholders as you started moving forward with your strategy, which makes absolute sense. Speaking another important stakeholders and another important platform is the advocacy platforms and events such as this one we are hosting here, and I believe in February you will be hosting SPIREC, which is the Spanish International Renewable Energy Conference, which I am very proud to be on the advisory council of. So what are you hoping to see from this event? You know, why having such dialogues are important for Spain, and why it was important for Spain to host it?
It was important for us because it is a matter where we can identify an increasingly involved group of people willing to enter into the details. So discovering how many other things need to be interconnected, and willing to have a chance to exchange with other players. And in this context, we decided that this conference that is taking place every year somewhere in the world was a good opportunity to combine the broader discussion at the world level with the concrete discussion with the concrete local stakeholders being part of this energy community, which is very interesting, because in fact one of the things that I feel more proud of is the type of skillful people we can find. You say that yes, I was insisting very much on the people, but I think that it is important, because at the end, what we are experiencing, what we are doing, is not just a technical issue and that's all. It's a change of values, it's a change of priorities. We need to play with the imagination, the innovation, but also the willingness of the different people. And in fact, the youth is being quite a transformative force in this understanding. So I think that having the occasion to host a personal meeting of people coming from different realities on how to accelerate the deployment of the renewable energy, where the bottlenecks may be, and how we can combine responses to these bottlenecks is very important. Having the opportunity to provide a platform to ensure that this discussion is open to the Spanish society, because there is an occasion, there is a meeting, provides additional engagement. So I think that it could be fantastic to count on you and to count on so many people and so many leaders dealing with this transformation coming from different countries in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody is looking forward to. Especially, it's apparently extremely warm in Madrid at this time of the year. Teresa, you've received many awards and you were recognized by many institutions, but there is one award that I have recently heard about which you received, which was the Public Personality Award, which was part of the Climate Reality Project. For those of us who are not very familiar with this organization, do you want to tell us a little bit more about this initiative and what did it mean to you to be recognized by it?
Well, it was a nice recognition. It is the Climate Project Award is something that was stated with the people working around Al Gore. So to see how we can accelerate and we can promote the climate activity in different levels of responsibility. And they were very kind and very nice, and they awarded me with this recognition, which is something that I appreciate very much, because in fact it's probably symbolic, but to a certain extent I've always felt that my heart, that my soul was activist on climate action, so it's nice.
No, it's absolutely nice and very, very well deserved. We are gonna stop for a second. We'll have a small break. We to go back to a little bit a different segment as we speak. Welcome back to Renewables. We are still here with Spain's third Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Ecological Transition, my friend Teresa. So Teresa, we've discussed the big topics. We discussed the themes of COP28, IRENA Assembly, and Spain's energy transition plans. But maybe it's time now to know a little bit more Teresa the person, the human, the one who has been influencing change in a very passionate way. So if I may ask you a few personal questions.
Please.
And you can answer in a word or two or in a paragraph. It's absolutely up to you. So your career path have taken you from law, you were a jurist, to an academia, you were a professor, a university professor, and now into politics. I wonder, is there a common thread between all those steps in your career and those professions? What and how they added to you and the role you are doing now?
Well, I guess that to a certain extent it responds to this dream most of us have when we are young, which is how can I contribute to build a better world? And then I like it. Law. I thought that the law and the capacity to count on the rules to make the things better and the skills to understand how it worked was a good thing. At the same time, I identified the sustainable development and the climate challenges very early when I was very young. And
you're still very young.
And I then realized that in fact it is not only a question of the formal regulation to make things happening in a different manner, and that the complexity and the interlinkages between many disciplines was very important, but that the most important thing was the cultural values evolution. And what is the line to take all along these years? I could say that the line to take is having the privilege to provide practice, but also some time for thinking and for assessing and for understanding with others what this means. When I've got the privilege to teach, that's also very important, how to stimulate and how to allow young people to think on their own, how to make the right questions, and how to think on what could be the possible answers to those right questions. So probably the main common line has been the linkage between prosperity and planetary limits, so the environmental agenda and the understanding that this is something to be dealt with, because we cannot oppose. There are physical limits, but it should be taken always with this anthropologist perspective of taking the people in the center of the decision. Otherwise, we could not count on the support of people.
Very busy life. I would like to know your trick. What's your secret? How do you unwind? How do you relax?
Well, I also have the privilege of having coming from a large family with many sisters and brothers and with a very united family.
How many?
And well, we were 5 because my brother died last year, passed away last year, but my parents, my cousins, we have always grown up together. And I have 3 children, and 3 children, they are not children anymore. But in fact, I guess that this also provides a good basis to come back to the ground.
Yes.
And to understand that there are, the order of priorities may be first to avoid having a heart attack, so to pay attention to your own health, otherwise you cannot work and you cannot improve your life or the life of the others. The second thing is to pay much attention to the affects, to the people, to spend time with the people you love, with your friends, with your families, because at the end that's something which is very important also in terms of healthy minds.
Yes.
And yes, so I think that this is very important. And then you find, I guess that you find the energy and the reasons why it is worth it to invest your time, so to provide things that can improve the life of the surrounding people.
What is your hope for the future?
I would like to build a much more cooperative approach on the type of answers that we need to provide. I like building together with other people. I would like that all these things taken into consideration, that we are, humankind means we are all brothers and sisters, so how we can be generous, so to ensure that things can be understood from this perspective, and how we can facilitate some solutions for some of the most compelling problems.
And I have no doubt that you are a role model to so many people, me one of them. But is there anyone that you admire most when it comes to the climate action sector?
Well, I think that there are many people. Something I don't like very much about the awards is that I believe very much on the collective efforts. I think that there are always very good people that you can learn from.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can find these people in very unexpected places.
Absolutely, we've seen that, didn't we?
But at the same time, I like to insist and to stress that there is no single person in the world that can solve what we have in front of us, and that we need to unite forces. So I think that it is more on the collective effort that we need to find the answers.
And do you have a favorite book?
Well, I like reading, I like poetry, and I like novels. I try to combine some of the fiction novels, so to get a little bit relaxed, with some essays. I think that at the same time it is very important to pay attention to how people reflect the type of problems and the type of potential solutions. So I think that we need to combine a little bit there too.
Teresa, thank you so much for being with us on Renewables. It has been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot to you. I think that this is a nice program. You provide a good platform for anyone willing to contribute, to the effort. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for listening to On Renewables. If you liked us, subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a rating on Apple Podcast. And if you've got any feedback or questions for any of us at the UAE Mission, leave us a comment on our social media pages on Instagram and on Twitter. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.